Welcome back, everybody. My name is Tim. This is another Real Ideal Gear review, and today we're looking at a genuine competitor to the Casio watch brand, and that is the Timex IronMan. The Timex IronMan really is a watch that has a great history with marathon running, with the Ironman competition itself, and for me was kind of that watch associated with real genuine athletes in the professional world of endurance races. So for me, I've done a few things in my time that have really associated myself kind of with this watch and what this watch is kind of memorable for. I've participated in some sprint triathlons myself. I've also climbed a couple of mountains. And for me, this watch really is, in hindsight, one that I wish I was wearing at the time. I was wearing a Casio at the time. And so for me, not a big deal. But at the same time, when I look at this watch, I think of some of the things that I've done athletically that have been a real challenge physically for me and the accomplishments that you have. Now, to get to those points, you really have to train. And this watch is all about that training and monitoring how you're performing. So we're going to look at this watch through the 5 things we typically look at: size, fitment, finish, accuracy, legibility, and lume. We're not going to spend a lot of time on the specs, but just kind of like, what does this watch really do for the buyer when it comes down to function, when it comes down to the wearability of the watch, and the overall legibility and light. So the size of this watch is a 38 millimeter case, but it's also a 42 millimeter when you consider the buttons. And the buttons are kind of large, and I think you really have to consider the diameter with the buttons for this particular watch. It's 13 millimeters tall, so proportionally, it's not really chunky yet, but at the same time, this watch has 100 meters of water resistance. It has a lot of features and functions to it, and it has kind of that Ironman-esque look to it. So that's okay. I think that 13 millimeters off the wrist and the 42 millimeters, or 38 millimeters if you go by the actual diameter of the case itself, is a little bit on the chunky side, but it's to me, it's not. I think the proportions are just underneath that as well. Now, it has an 18 millimeter lug. So if you want to swap out the strap, you have an 18 millimeter strap to do that with. That's great. Go ahead and go for it. Now, what about the fitment? The strap on this watch is a great strap. For $28, you're not going to find a better strap than this. And it really has a nice, thick, supple feel to it. The problem I have with it is just like the Casios, the spacing of the holes is the exact same. But if you notice at the very end of the strap, you'll see a larger hole. That hole matches up with the tooth inside the keeper. And so the keeper really stays in place. Here's some video of that little matchup there between the keeper and that hole at the very end of the strap. And I think it's a great idea, and I wish more companies would look into this to keep that keeper in place at the end of the strap, which is where all the snagging is going to occur when you wear the watch. Great pin buckle. I love the pin buckle. I'm not sure if it's metal or not. To me, it looks like it's plastic, but it could be metal. It could be a very, very lightweight alloy metal. Not totally sure on it. Now, it has a stainless steel case back. It's a screw down. It has 4 screws there to screw down the case back, which I think is it's just kind of that classic digital watch, $28 digital watch. Now, on the front side with the Casio, with the Timex IronMan, it has a great legible display. The display numbers on there are almost centered in the center of the display. Takes up the bottom half of the display for the numbers, for the hours. But you look at the day and the date, it takes up the other about third, almost half at the top. So to me, great use of the real estate on this display. The overall look of this watch, I love the matte gray finish. I love the matte black finish. I love the text on here. The orange Timex at the top is awesome. You have your start and your lap button at the 6 o'clock position. Great layout of all the buttons. Very tactile, very user-friendly when it comes to the layout. So let's get into the mode of this watch. And when I look at the chronograph, again, the readout very, very large. Like this to me is where the Timex IronMan really, I think, outperforms most Casios when it comes down to the legibility of all of these functions as well. So with the chronograph, you're going to get the lap function. You're going to have up to 30 different laps that you can measure if you'd like. If you go on to the next function, you have the timer, then you have the 3 alarms. Now, if you go back to the home screen and you press the lap button, you're going to see T2, and T3. You can get 3 time zones on this watch, and very straightforward, very easy to adjust them. You can adjust that at the adjustment screens for time zone 1, 2, or 3, and you have the same thing with the alarms 1, 2, or 3. So overall, the functions of this watch are outstanding. 3 time zones, 3 alarms, timer. You have the chronograph. There's just not a lot missing on this $28 Timex IronMan watch. Now, what about the light on this watch? The light, it's an Indiglow light. Timex is famous for the Indiglow light. It works great on their analog watches, but on this digital watch, I think it's subpar, especially in low light conditions. So I'm going to show you the video of the camera compensating for exposure. It's going to compensate for the light, and it looks really crisp and clear. But if I was to set, and I did set this on the next video clip here, to what the exposure looks like, what I'm seeing while I'm doing this, you're going to see that under low light conditions, it's not as legible. Now, in completely dark conditions, it's perfect. As a matter of fact, I think the way that this Indiglow was set up was for the no light conditions so that you don't blow your eyes out with a lot of excessive light. But also keep in mind that this is a negative display light. So the numbers themselves change from black to white, or in this case, blue. To me, that's great. It reminds me of the Casio Big Sky, the W736. When you hit that light button, it's a negative display light, which I think is great because you don't have a lot of excess light that splashes out from the display. So overall, I really like this watch. I love the functions of the watch. I love the fit. I especially love the keeper. I think the legibility of this watch is great. The light, not so good. But overall design, I mean, look at the features of this watch. I think it's just a really cool looking watch, and I think it's a genuine competitor for any Casio at $28 or less. To me, this is really a 9.8 out of 10. I don't see a lot of issues with this watch. I would definitely wear this watch to work. I have worn this to work. Here's some little short video clips of me wearing this to work. I think it does a great job. And again, without my glasses on, I can see what the time, the day, and the date is. No problem whatsoever. So to me, this is a great work watch. It has an acrylic crystal, so you got to be careful of the scratches, but you can rub that out with Polywatch. So there you go. Put in the comments down below what you think of this watch. Is this watch a competitor with Casio when it comes to the functions at $28? I think it is. I'd like to hear what you have to say. Check out my website, realidealgear.com, for any of these kind of digital watches or other watches that I'm selling that I've reviewed. You're going to find a great deal there. And there you go. My name is Tim. It's been another Real Ideal Gear review. We'll catch you guys next time.